I, 31 female, am married to James, 35 male, and we have a toddler son together. James also has 2 children, Grace, young female teen, and Luke, young male teen, with his ex-wife Sharon, 36. Sharon and James have been divorced for 12 years, and ever since, Sharon's been in a string of relationships and had 4 additional children who range in age from tween and under. She's currently married and has 3 stepchildren who are pre-tween and under. James has always been willing to help Sharon if needed, so the kids can see them getting along, and so they know he always does his best for them and their mom. But now he wants me to go a step further than he ever has, and he wants me to babysit all of Sharon's kids, since I'm a stay-at-home mom technically, but I do run my own online business to earn money and can do that around everything else in my life. He said Sharon is struggling to find childcare for all of her children, and her husband is a bit of a deadbeat. I found out after that Grace asked her dad to help because she worried about her mom. I told James that was too much for me. He said he would help where he could, and I wouldn't need to worry about money because he would take care of it. I told him that's a lot though, and honestly, too overwhelming for me. He was frustrated with me, and I told him I didn't appreciate the pressure he was putting on me. Later, Sharon called me and told me she wanted to start dropping off the kids after Christmas. I told her I hadn't agreed. She told me James had told her I would do it. She then told me I should be willing to help out, and it would win the kids over, Grace and Luke, to me, and maybe even to my son, their half-brother. I told James he had no right to promise anything on my behalf. He told me he believed I would be on board, and he was surprised I was so against it when I never had a problem with him helping. Then he asked me to give a reason why I couldn't help with getting in someone to help me take care of the kids. I told him he could just pay for people then, if he's so determined, but I won't be babysitting. I also told him we need marriage counseling because of this. Also, this might be meaningless, but I feel I should confess it here. Another reason I'm unwilling, even if it wasn't so much hard work, is the fact that Grace and Luke have never shown an interest in my son, but they're half-siblings from their mom and step-siblings from her. It's totally different. I think it's because they consider all of them, even the steps, their mom's kids, but with my son, he's mine and not as much their dad's. They're not fond of me or their mom's husband. It's something I've been working on, but I admit the idea of having all the kids as my son gets a bit older and him watching his 2 siblings treat their other siblings so much better makes me say no anyway. Anyway, Sharon's calling me an idiot and saying that I'm not thinking of my stepkids. James thinks I should have been willing to work with him to figure out a compromise. Am I the idiot? I'm trying to do the math here. She has 6 biological kids, 2 with your hubby, and 4 with other men, and 3 stepchildren. So he wants you to watch 7 additional kids during the day? Not to mention your child, Grace and Luke? It's 10 kids in total? I'd say no for the sheer chaos that would cause. And also, you work. Stop calling yourself a stay-at-home mom. You work from home with a flexible schedule and keep reminding your husband of that. Yeah, you'd be watching 10 kids in total, right? What the heck? That's not a reasonable request. In an emergency situation for one day or evening, maybe, and only if you're up to it. But regular daycare doesn't even allow that many kids with one person. It would also bother me greatly that your husband goes that far to help his ex. I get he's probably doing this for the benefit of his kids, but this is taking it very far. You are not the idiot. His voluntolding you is a big problem in your marriage. Watching 10 kids along with your own while working from home is not feasible in any way, shape, or form. Be sure to tell both of them in text that if they drop the children off, you will call the police. Go to your support system, since James is not it. This is not a "can you watch my kid for me for a few hours?" It's a "can you set up and run a full-blown daycare for me for free?" And Jesus, can you imagine the cost of food too? I'm a guy, and I'm honestly going to tell you, your husband has agreed to this because he knows He won't be the one doing the main heavy lifting of all these kids, apart from throwing money at it. He will only do the bare minimum of anything with all the kids. I guarantee you. Are you sure your husband isn't sleeping with her? Because that's the only reason I can think of anyone would even propose this bizarre scenario. I, 40 male, have a daughter, Claire, teen, with my ex, Amy, 39 female. Amy and I broke up when Claire was born because she felt like we settled down too soon and felt shackled by our relationship and family. We've always shared 50-50 custody since. I got married to my now wife, Jane, 35, about 5 years ago. Amy went on to have 2 other kids with 2 different men who weren't involved with the kids, so she has full custody of her other 2 kids, then 50% of Claire. Her 2 youngest sons are a toddler and a preschooler. Claire doesn't love the situation in which she lives with her mom. The place is crowded, and her 2 younger brothers are just, well, toddlers. She says they don't leave her alone, and she gets no time alone there. So she prefers to stay with me more often now. She also gets along really well with my now wife and wants to spend a lot of time with her. Claire asked me if she could spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with me and Jane. Our regular schedule was that Claire spent Christmas Eve with one of us and Christmas Day with the other, and then we switched it around the next year. I told Claire that I couldn't give her an answer to that without discussing it with her mom. She asked her mom before I could discuss it with her, and Amy called to tell me it was okay and that Claire could spend both days with me because she had her hands full anyway, and it would take some work off her plate. I'm excited to have both days with Claire, and so is Jane. Jane actually suggested we go somewhere since we have both days to spend with Claire. So we planned a trip to a beach resort in another city. I called Amy to let her know, and she said it was fine, but she called me back 2 days later asking if there's any chance I could cancel the beach trip and do something in our city, and also include her sons so that she can go and see her family this Christmas. She said her sons don't have passports, so she can't take them to another country with her to visit her family, but this is the only time she has to visit her family because she always has to work. I said I barely knew her kids, so it would be strange just to take them in and take care of them for however many days she's gone. I just want to relax with my wife and Claire, and taking care of 2 toddlers that I don't even know personally is not my idea of a good Christmas. That's so much pressure, and I haven't taken care of a toddler in about a decade. I also already told Claire about the beach trip, and she was so excited. So simply staying home isn't an option if it's not an emergency. I don't imagine she'll be too happy to have her brothers come along when she complains about being at her mom's house because of them either. I told Amy the reasons above, except that Claire didn't like being around her brothers, and she said that I'm doing this to punish her for leaving me and that I could easily take care of her sons, but I'm being spiteful. I told her to stop being ridiculous. We broke up 14 years ago, and I found the love of my life after that. There's no reason on earth for me to be spiteful, and I'm sorry to decline her request. I'd rather just be with my immediate family this Christmas. She said she didn't think I was the type to alienate children out of spite, and she's disappointed in the man I've become. This is the first time since our breakup that we had an argument or anything close to it. She usually isn't like this, so while I think it's unreasonable for her to expect me to take care of her 2 sons while she's gone, I'm worried that I damaged our co-parenting relationship. If it wasn't Christmas, I really would have considered it. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. She's emotionally blackmailing you, so she doesn't have to take care of her kids. It sounds like Claire might move in with you full time. I bet Claire would love to. I wonder how many diapers Claire has had to change. Christmas is the same day every year. She had plenty of time to get passports for her kids. I'm not trying to defend her because she's out of line with the Christmas thing, but it is actually legitimately insanely hard to get your kid a passport if you don't have contact with the dad. Both parents have to physically show up to an appointment in person for both kids in order to get them a passport. So if she isn't in contact with the dads and doesn't have a way to reach them, assuming they're on the birth certificates, then getting the passport would be a serious issue. What if she doesn't come back? Sounds like a trap. Maybe my brain is going wild, but what if she never returned from this vacation? And also, what if she did return and started telling tales about how you mistreated the boys or something? This leaves you in a very vulnerable position in more ways than one. Before my cousin married her husband, she was one of those eat the rich, anti-capitalist people who blamed rich people for the world's problems, especially climate change. I love her, but she was annoying about the whole thing a lot of the time, and it was almost her entire personality. At one point, she hated rich people to the point that when she met her husband, she claimed he only wanted to date her because he wasn't used to not getting his way because he grew up rich, and she'd get angry whenever he did anything nice for her. Even when she married him, she claimed it was okay because she could give all of his money away if she did. They moved to Australia a few months ago, and they were supposed to stay there for 3 years minimum, but my cousin found out she was pregnant 2 weeks ago, and according to her husband, had a complete meltdown. She'd never lived away from her parents before, and she said she was already overwhelmed because her life has been changing so fast. So finding out she was pregnant was the final straw. Her husband is lovely, so he dropped everything, and they left Australia the very next day. He has to go back after the holidays to sort some things out, and it seems like they're going to have to be long distance for a while, since my cousin doesn't want to be so far from family. She told me he plans to fly back and forth while he sorted some things out. I pointed out how that would be bad for the environment, since she still acts super passionate about climate change. She claims they don't have another choice, which is very clearly a lie. I also told her she had become a hypocrite by marrying her husband, since he was everything she stood against personified. And I think her pregnancy hormones got to her because she started crying when she normally wouldn't cry over something like this. I feel bad for making her cry, since that wasn't my intention. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. It wasn't pregnancy hormones. You were just mean. One thing we learn in life is never say never, because life has a twisted humor. As people grow, their views and opinions change, and that's okay. It was a fair comment about the environment, because that's true. But is he taking a private jet? If not, and he's flying on a commercial plane, then it really doesn't have a big environmental impact anyway. Also, she's clearly going through something, so maybe bring this up jokingly at a later date, not seriously when she's having a life crisis. Even if it's not on a private jet, taking long-haul flights is still one of the major contributors to our carbon footprint. It's a smaller impact than flying private, obviously, but it's still big relative to the rest of our typical consumption. It sounds like Cousin's less eat the rich and more make the rich eat you. Mad props to her for playing the system. Yeah, it sounds like she wouldn't have had that perspective before the money. She just softens her views for herself. OP, not the idiot. You gave her a taste of her own medicine, and her judgmental butt didn't like it. She is the rich she hates now, who has the luxury of just flying back and forth, all because she had a tantrum about being pregnant and away from family. She's a complete hypocrite. My sister has a tween daughter. She's her affair partner's child. I knew the guy. He was really abusive. So my sister chose to hide it from him and pretended it was her husband's child. A few months ago, her husband found out that the child wasn't his and decided he didn't want to raise the child anymore and sent her to our parents' house. Our parents are very old and couldn't care for a kid, so they called me and asked me to take her. I wanted to take her in, but my wife was against it. We have a child of our own, and my wife felt we should concentrate on raising her rather than raising another child. I had no choice but to find her bio dad and ask him to take her. This happened a few months ago, and I still feel terrible. I haven't called or seen my niece since then. My parents think I'm an idiot for letting my wife kick my niece out, but it wasn't my responsibility, was it? Wait, where's your sister, the mother of the kid? Why are your parents blaming your wife instead of their daughter? Additionally, the biological father has parental rights. There are also a lot of legal details to sort through before you can consider taking a child in. If those issues can be overcome, I would ask, what is in the child's best interest? Yeah, my heart goes out to her too. She's being passed around like an unwanted bag of French fries. Does anyone love the child? If they're married and he signed the birth certificate, he's legally her father. Can someone call Child Protective Services on mom and legal dad for abandoning their kid? This poor kid. Mom, legal father, and bio father all sound like idiots. The grandparents aren't much better for blaming the OP instead of their daughter for this mess. You are not the idiot. The niece was not kicked out. You just chose not to accept the request to take in and raise someone else's child. That is perfectly fine. The real idiot is your sister. This is her child. Apparently, the ultimatum was her husband or her daughter, and she chose her husband, even if it meant sending her tween daughter to an abusive father whom she had never met. The niece did nothing wrong, and her world is turned upside down. Sister and husband are terrible. I could see the husband being upset, but to throw out a child that he raised as his own for that many years because of his pride is awful. The deal with my kids was that I would pay for basically all of their college if they got good grades, graduated on track for their degree, and held a campus job. I also made it clear that if they drop out, I will not pay for them to go back, even if I have the money. My son did great. My second oldest did great also. My third kid did not. She was struggling, so I got rid of the requirements of a campus job and let her focus on her grades. She failed and admitted to not attending class or doing the work. A lot of other factors went into it, but the plan is that she'll take a light semester next semester and live at home. I thought we had an agreement until today. She told me she got into another college and wants to go there. She would have to pay full price for this college. The one she's at the moment is a good college that has given her scholarships. The new one is a branch state school known to be a party school. It's also far away, so she can't live at home. So she'll be spending twice as much, won't be at home, and it's a party school. I told her it would be a waste of my money to send her to that school. She can go, but she'll need to take out loans, and my financial help ends. This started an argument about me controlling her life, and I'm a huge jerk. Her siblings also got involved and called me a jerk for holding the money, that I never did that to them, but they were responsible, and she isn't. She just proved that this year. Not the idiot, but I don't understand why you think her current school will continue to give her scholarships. I wouldn't say no, I'd say not yet. Tell her she has to succeed for a couple of semesters as a commuter before you reconsider other schools. You're not controlling her life, you're giving her a choice. She can stay nearby and have her tuition paid. She can go to the other college and pay for it herself. Your position is absolutely reasonable. She's already done poorly once, so why would you spend more of your money to send her to a party school far away with no way to help her be accountable? I don't know why, and maybe I'm being unfair, but I can picture your daughter at the college she wants, going to parties instead of classes, getting pregnant from a jerk or someone she doesn't know to contact after, and coming back home for you to financially support her and the baby. You're not the idiot. Unfortunately, you have a very immature, entitled, and irresponsible daughter.